you breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, December 4th. A cold Wednesday, December 4th, but an exciting Wednesday because it's National Signing Day. East Carolina football has already welcomed, I believe, close to 20 official members of the 2025 recruiting class. We'll get into that over the next hour. We're going to visit with Kevin Monroe here in a minute or two. We're also going to have James Giglio, Hoist the Colors intern, son of Joe Giglio, in studio. You can hear Joe later this week, by the way, on the Patrick Johnson Show. But a lot happening. Man, we need a 2-hour show at least on a day like this. The college football playoff rankings have been updated. The transfer portal, guys are still entering and are declaring to enter. And then, of course, signing day being moved up a couple weeks. Even as somebody who covers recruiting, it's thrown me off pretty severely, but we continue on. All right, let's welcome in our first guest today, Kevin Monroe, former ECU DB, also the color analyst on the ECU Sports Network for football. Kevin, it's signing day. I'm not going to ask you to break down this class because there's a lot of moving parts and all of that, but I will ask you your signing day. What do you remember about Kevin Monroe's signing day back in the day when you signed originally?
Well, that's a good question. You know, when it came down to it, I had two major FBS offers, and that was East Carolina and NC State. And I had some other, kind of FCS stuff. The Air Force Academy wanted me because my father was in the Air Force, and they thought they might be able to get me through that avenue. But it was ECU. They started early. They were on me from the very beginning, being a local kid from East Carolina, and so I felt loyalty to them. Plus, my father graduated from ECU, and so I kind of always had them as my number one. I considered NC State just because they were out of Greenville, and I went to high school in Greenville. But when it came down to it, I just loved the Pirates and how they treated me. And so signing day was cool. We had all the local newspaper and television folks there at Rose High School, and I signed with Torrey Smith, who also signed with East Carolina, and he had a great career at East Carolina as a receiver. And we had a kid named Tito Simpson in our class as well at Rose. And he signed with Chapel Hill, and so all three of us signed the same day, kind of in the atrium area there at Rose, and it was a pretty big deal, big article in the paper. It was fun time.
Kevin, now it's like I almost forgot today was signing day as somebody who covers it, and it's just so I don't know. They moved it up. Of course, it used to be only in February. Then they had a December signing period, and now they moved it up. So it's like right after the regular season, which I guess is better now than in the middle of bowl season. But I don't know. It's lost some luster. I mean, I am happy for the guys, and it's always fun to cover recruiting. We may be doing this for Marcus Monroe next year. Obviously, if he signs somewhere, it looks like he will. Next year's class. So, happy for all the guys. But I don't know. It's just with the portal now, high school recruiting, you don't know how long these guys are going to stay. It's just I don't think it's quite the same as it used to be, Kevin.
I agree. And now I'm not even sure why there are two signing periods. It seems like pressure on these kids to sign in the first signing period because all of a sudden if you don't sign in December, you may lose that opportunity to sign in February. And you're basically saying, I'm waiting on something better if you don't sign in December. And so it's just kind of weird the way they do it, and then you got the portal opening and closing around the signing days, and so as you said, so many moving parts. But I'm excited to see the guys that the Pirates have signed. Looks like a lot of good players in this class, and so we'll see. But you're right, it has lost a little bit of luster.
Kevin Monroe with us, former ECU defensive back, and Kevin, we'll get the update on Marcus Monroe, class of 26, while we're talking recruiting. I believe you guys visited Penn State. Is that correct, this past weekend?
We did. We had a solid couple of weeks. We went to Duke. We saw Duke Virginia Tech game. That was a good time. They showed them a good time there at Duke. And then Thanksgiving Friday, he was invited to the East Carolina game. Obviously that game didn't turn out so great, but it was good for him to be able to get down there and see the coaches and see that game. And then the very next day, flew to State College to see Penn State and Maryland. And that game was a bit of a blowout, but the coaches were great, treated him really, really well. He felt the love, and it's kind of funny. He posted about making that visit, and it's probably the post where he's gotten the most views of any post he's ever put up. The State College, Penn State folks are pretty crazy. They started following him, reposting his post. Somebody even tagged James Franklin and said, you better hand deliver this kid an offer, which is pretty funny. So he really enjoyed it up there. It was cold, but had a good time, and just appreciated the love.
No doubt. I figured that he would get some love for that. I'm sure it was a great experience. Yeah, Marcus Monroe. You can follow him on Twitter at MarcusMonroe26 for any Pirate fans. Of course, ECU recruiting him as well. So we'll continue to follow his story. All right, Kevin, we haven't gotten you on since the official announcement came about Blake Carroll getting the full-time head coaching job, the interim tag removed. So what were your thoughts when you heard that news?
I'm a Blake Carroll fan. I think he's a great guy. I loved him as the D coordinator hire. If you remember, before Blake came, the defense was pretty abysmal. He just kind of turned that thing around in one season. And even last year in the down year, the defense still kept the Pirates in almost every game. Rarely did they get blown out, even though they lost a lot of games. So I've always appreciated that. And certainly we've had some bad defensive games. Even this year, we've had some games where things weren't great, but I think a lot of that was personnel and young guys playing. And of course, Chavon Ravel going down was a big factor. But I've always loved him as a defensive coach. I wondered how it would be as a head coach and having to manage the media, manage all the off the field stuff, and be more of an admin guy than you are a coach. But he seems to have handled that well, and almost took the Ruffin McNeil approach that I'm gonna be a nice guy. I'm gonna get to know everybody. I'm gonna be a relationship guy. I'm gonna tell the players I love them and I'm gonna mean it. And it's been endearing to the fans. It's been endearing to the media, and I think everybody kind of likes him. I like him a lot, and he won games. That's the biggest part of this whole deal. Is he won football games, and it didn't end the way we wanted it to with the loss of Navy, but going 4-1 in Spain, I think he at least deserved the opportunity. I didn't know if they would give him a longer-term deal or not. They gave him 4 years, which is pretty impressive. So we'll see how it goes in the offseason with recruiting and then heading in the next year. But I'm okay with the hire.
I like that you make the Ruffin McNeil comparison, Kevin, because I've kind of felt the same way. Being out of practice, I think he's tried to make it as player-friendly as possible, energetic as possible. He's letting the guys be themselves. And obviously, there's a balance. You have to walk there. You got to have some discipline as well. I think he will certainly find that balance if he hasn't already. So I like that comparison a lot. But he said recently that he likely will hand the play calling duties over next year defensively and hire a defensive coordinator. So do you agree with that decision? I'm sure he'll still be involved. Even when he said it, he was like, I think we'll kind of hand it over. So I think he'll still be involved. But there's just a lot for a head coach to do. And maybe it's best that he kind of, gets somebody to help with those.
Absolutely. I think he should hand it off, but certainly his fingerprint should be all over that defense. He knows what he's doing on the defense side of the ball. And whenever you have a coach, every coach has their side of the ball that they're comfortable with, that they grew up coaching. And so you can kind of tell that team should reflect the head coach on that side of the ball. And so if something starts to falter on the defensive side, he'll step in and right the ship. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, it frees him up to be ready to to focus on the offense when the offense is out there and be ready to decide when to call timeout, when to go for it on fourth down, not worried about defensive stuff in the background. So I like that idea. And he probably just felt a little bit overwhelmed on the sidelines having to call the defense and be the head coach, which I understand. And maybe when he has more experience doing both, maybe he'll go back to calling the defensive plays. But I think it's a good idea early on.
The transfer portal officially opens next Monday, but guys are already declaring their intentions, Kevin, and we saw Chase Sowell declare that he's going to enter. Obviously, one of ECU's a more prolific receiver in terms of statistics. What did you think of that move? And I don't know if anything's a surprise this day and age in college football, but it kind of caught me a little bit off guard. Just what was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I don't know Chase very well. He seems to be a super nice kid. I can remember when Marcus went to camp there last year. He took a liking to Marcus and was really nice to him and was giving him pointers and stuff. And so I like that about him, and I thought he probably had a better year last year than he did this year. He was able to step up when some guys got injured last year. This year, he had some injuries, plus he had some drops. It probably wasn't the year for him to transfer, in my opinion, in terms of trying to upgrade from East Carolina. Now, if he's just trying to get closer to home, I get that, being a kid from Texas. I don't have an issue with that, but if he's just saying, hey, I'm better than East Carolina, then I question that a little bit. I don't know what's in his mind. I'm just talking from a Kevin Monroe's perspective. But I do like him as a player. I like him as a kid. And I wish the best for him. I just hate to see him go.
No doubt, and I think it becomes all the more important that you hang on to Yannick Smith now. And I'm not saying Chase was scared of the competition, but looking at what Yannick did in his spot the last 2 games, I think ECU will be fine if they can hang on to him. So we'll see what happens there. I wrote an article the other day, Kevin, 10 guys from the core ECU ideally needs to retain. From your perspective, who are a handful of guys that come to mind that really ECU, especially running this back with Blake Harrell, this staff, really need to retain to have a shot to be good next year against a very difficult schedule?
Oh, man, I think that's a great point. Yannick Smith is top of the list for me. I think Landon Montgomery is another one that he has a bright future here. On the defensive side of the ball, a couple of the linebackers that played this year, played well that I liked. I mean, keep that linebacker room tight. I don't know a whole lot of the backups or subs in terms of defensive line, but obviously you're losing 3 seniors on defensive line, and so you got to tighten that up, whether you get that in the portal, whether there's some guys that played some this year or redshirted this year that are going to step up and make some plays. We got to get better defensive line-wise. In the secondary, it's hard to say. What year was IBM? IBM's returning, correct?
Yeah, he's got 2 years left.
Yes, he's certainly a guy that you can count on. Whether he's your top cover guy or not, he's a guy that played well this year. So he's one that you want to keep. Those are the ones that kind of top of mind. Obviously, at quarterback, you want to make sure that Hauser stays around. At the very least, he shows that he can get it done. He can win ball games in the American Conference, and so he'd be one on my list too. But definitely top 2 would be Yannick and Landon Montgomery.
It's one of those things, Kevin. I feel like if this was 2-3 years ago and you had a sophomore quarterback and a first-year OC and ECU kind of trended upward the way it did the last half of the season, that a lot of people would be really excited about the future. And I think people are, but it's almost like just we're all kind of holding our breath, hoping nothing changes. I don't know. Like, it just feels like it can still be so year to year. Although from what I've heard, look, Caton is pretty locked in here. I've heard that there's already been some Power 4 interest calling his people, trying to get him, potentially looking there. But he's sold on staying here. And then obviously JDB, I expect at this point to be back. So I don't know. Like, it kind of reminds me of Carden early in his career as a sophomore when he started to trend up. So I guess maybe that's the hope, and we'll just see how this thing plays out.
I've had this conversation with my father and my brother. I pretty much sat for 3 years. I mean, I redshirted my first year. My redshirt freshman year, I was on every special team, but I didn't play hardly any on defense. And then my sophomore year, I started 2 games at corner, and the rest of the time I was just a backup and a special teams guy. So those first 3 years, I didn't really hardly do anything. And then, my junior year, I played great, had 4 interceptions, had a great year. And then going into my senior year, I would imagine in this day and age, I would have had pretty high stock, and I would assume that Power 4s would have been calling me. And that would have been a tough decision, because my ultimate goal was to go to the NFL. And so had I gotten a call from the HTC, I would at least have entertained it. I love the Pirates and probably would have stayed at East Carolina. But you have to realize when these players, when their stock is rising, they're going to entertain those calls. And so that's why you got to have the NIL money tight, and you got to make sure these coaches are recruiting internally to make sure you keep these guys.
Last thing for you, Kevin Monroe, former ECU DB, as you look at the Blake Harrell era moving forward. Such a weird year this year, 7-5, but I think all things considered, a solid season. You can obviously argue they could have had more wins with the schedule, but 4-1 as coach, as head coach. We'll see where this thing goes forward. From your perspective as a former player, what are some of the key things Coach Harrell needs to continue to do to move this program forward, take it to the next level to where they can get back to winning some games over Power 4 competition, which they'll face next year, maybe in the bowl game, and then also just continuing to move back towards the upper echelon of the American?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job, obviously, recruiting skill position players under Houston. Bringing in Anthony Smith and Winston Wright last year were huge additions. I think if they can continue to do that, go out in the portal and find skill position guys, both at corner and safety and at wide receiver, maybe a running back every now and then, I think that is what you have to do in today's day and age. And then you got to recruit hard offensive, defensive line. I mean, those are always the hardest ones to do. So whether you get those through the portal, whether you're getting those high school kids and you're getting them in the weight room and getting them ready to play, but the offensive, defensive line, you always got to have a stable, 10, 12 of those guys ready to go. And then the skill position players, you don't get as worried about those guys hopping in the portal because there's always another one coming out of the portal looking to come to your school. So just finding the right guys, finding the right fit to get them going. And then really, just scheme-wise, you keep JDB, his offense can work in this conference. We've shown that we can play well in it when the receivers are catching the ball and Hauser's putting it on them. And then defensively, when we have the right guys out there, our defense is really, really good, especially against the run. So just continue to do what you're doing scheme-wise, both offensively and defensively, but just honing in that transfer portal and the right guys to get, specifically the skill position guys, I think is the way to go. I think he'll be fine. He seems to understand it. He's been at several different schools. He knows what the talent looks like. He knows what kind of guys he needs to win here. And I'm happy with the signees I've seen so far in terms of size and attributes. So I think that he's definitely trending up.
He is, Kevin Monroe. Kevin, we appreciate the time all season long. We'll get you on at some point before the bowl game as well to preview that. But it's been a fun football season catching up with you weekly, man, and I hope you have a happy rest of December and the holiday season, man.
Same to you, Igo. I appreciate you having me on this year, and I've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. That is Kevin Monroe, color analyst on the ECU Sports Network. We'll get a break in. We'll come back. We've got a lot to get to. We got comments on last night's basketball game. We got a touch on signing day. James Gilio will join us as well, Hoist the Colors intern. We've got a lot to get to. This is Hoist the Colors.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast, Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. minds, hearts, purpose.
The Pirates play here. This is Hoist the Colors Radio with Stephen Igo. Yes, that was so good. On 94.3, The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, December 4th edition. It is signing day. Again, I'll touch on that here in a second. Give some of my thoughts on some of the things that have happened. First, though, I want to introduce our guest in studio. He is James Giglio, back for his second performance.
Yeah, we're back.
How's it going?
That's good. We're back. I'm glad to be back. Long enough.
Yeah, so Philip Pilkin in producing. So when I walked in here this morning, Joe Giglio, James's father, he was recording a segment with Patrick Johnson. So is that airing today too?
No, he's got John on today.
Okay, so John Gilbert on today. James Giglio, though, will be on, or Joe Giglio will be on later. James Giglio on now.
Yeah, it's confusing, but we're here.
A lot of Giglios on 94.3 The Game. So,
I know we're not supposed to make too many comments about video because most people are listening on radio, but it is funny to see the height difference right now.
Is it?
If you can go back and look, if you're in your car listening on radio.
You are very tall.
Yeah.
I'm 6'3". My chair is kind of high, though, I think.
Okay, James is a whole head higher than I go right now. Of course, he has better posture. I goes like
I'm a
down.
slumper.
Yeah, my posture isn't bad, but I think my chair is higher. I think that might be the main reason. Yeah, I'm not.
James, last time he was on, if you're watching on the video, he did this the entire time with his hand, like it looked like he knew what he was talking about, like an expert.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
And he it was like I've never done that before.
No, I've never done that before. It was just natural.
Just a natural thing. I think it makes you look good. It's kind of Schwartz does it all the time. Mike Schwartz, ECU basketball. We'll talk about that in a minute. He is like post game. He's got the hand fully extended out with the fingers. I think it's you really.
I'm never doing it again.
You really feel like you're an expert when you're doing that.
No, you know what makes you look smart is when you get the pen in your hand. When you get the pen like this,
that is true.
You talk with your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I saw Brady had his notes last time he was on.
Brady had notes.
He looked pretty official.
He was ready to roll. All right, so I'm going to talk about signing day now. I'm going to guess that neither of you guys have a whole lot of insight on ECU's signing class.
Not entirely, no.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm being completely honest.
All right, so let me take this and run with it because even as somebody who covers recruiting, it can be a struggle. And this is signing day. ECU, as of right now, has signed 19 players to – they can't even sign them to national letters of intent anymore, people, because that is no longer a thing. So they've signed them to, I guess, signing documents, grant and aids, enrollment papers, whatever allows them to be binded to the school to where the school can announce it. So the big news coming out today, if you're covering recruiting or following recruiting, Pirates got two big commitments today that you could say were unexpected. Darion Horsley, a 3-star cornerback out of Georgia, was a top target of ECU over the summer. He officially visited ECU in Mississippi State. He committed to Mississippi State. He then backed off that commitment on November 20th. I personally had really not heard his name at all, so I was surprised when he announced today he signed up with ECU. Big commitment from the standpoint of this needs to be a strong corner class. He's a 6'2", 185-pound corner, big corner, along with some guys who are, smaller but more athletic corners. The other big news locally, Johnny Williams, also known as Cash Williams out of Havelock High School, slot receiver, explosive playmaker, one of the first commits of the class, one of the top targets, then backed off his pledge, obviously, after Mike Houston was fired. Then he comes back today because really just talking with Johnny throughout the process, I think he always wanted to be a Pirate, and you can't blame him. I think we talked about this when he decommitted, Philip. Like, if you're a high school player and you don't really know what the staff is, he wants to secure a spot where he feels comfortable. He flipped to James Madison. I don't blame him for that at all. And then once it was announced Blake Harrell was retained and his offensive staff, specifically Dyrell Roberts, receivers coach, are coming back, I think it was kind of a no-brainer for him. So he comes back to ECU, 3-star receiver, and just talking with Johnny, I think he always wanted to be a Pirate and ends up as one.
Yeah, it comes down to one of those things. You mentioned the relationships. Now, obviously, you say he always wanted to be a Pirate, so he was going to do what it took to get here, right? But if you make a relationship with a coach, a position, whether that be the head coach, position room coach, coordinator, and then they're gone, you don't even know who to interview with. You can at least go up to JMU and build relationships with that staff. Well, now that he found out, like you said, that Daryl Roberts and John David Baker are going to be back, what's the point? Unless the only close relationship you had was Mike Houston, which honestly it shouldn't be the only close relationship you have as the head coach, because you spend way more time with your coordinator and your position room coach than you do the head coach anyways. What's the point? And not committing or not coming back. So not totally surprised. When right as Blake got the interim tag taken off, I kind of thought, hey, we might be able to get Johnny back, and glad to see him that he's going to still be in a Pirate uniform.
Yeah, he will enroll early. ECU will have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like 13 early enrollees, or 12. Let's see, 12 early enrollees, I believe, that have signed thus far. So it'll be a huge chunk of this class coming in early. The other thoughts on this class, I mentioned the corners. Also really like the safeties. Bernard Lackey, legacy commit. His father played ECU in the 90s. Also add DJ Spear out of Georgia. Heavy Georgia influence in this class, which will continue, by the way. Blake Harrell, huge Georgia recruiter, does a really good job. Couple O-linemen. Good defensive linemen in this class. Dominic Moody, good size. Josiah Dwyer. Dylan Worthen, who projects as an outside linebacker. Huge tight end class. You got 3 guys who have the ability to play tight end. Now, they list Stephen Collier out of River Bluff High School in South Carolina as an athlete, but he will be kind of a tweener, likely between receiver, tight end, and then they signed Caleb Morrow and Cayman Reynolds, who are more traditional tight ends. So, good class overall. Quarterbacks, Cole Hodge and his brother, who's a receiver, Connor Hodge, are both committed. Obviously, Cole signed last year, delayed his enrollment, and then you also signed quarterback Chasten Ditta out of Powerhouse Lake Travis High School in Austin, Texas. So we'll have more on this class throughout the day on hoistthecolors.net. Also, we're going to have Blake Carroll's press conference, 2:30, I believe, Philip, where he will break it down. And so we'll see. I've heard a little bit of talk. We'll see if Yannick Smith's younger brother, Yasir Smith, defensive lineman out of Somerville, we'll see if he ends up signing today or if he waits, because ECU offered him recently. So there's your signing class update. If you got a question, drop it. I'll get to it throughout the show. Jones Bones on YouTube says, we flipped Johnny. Major steal, surprise Stater, Chapel Hill didn't pluck him. I know Wake Forest was looking at Johnny Williams at one point, but I think he just felt comfortable at ECU. So looking forward to seeing Johnny in an ECU uniform. All right, guys. What happened in basketball last night?
I didn't watch the game. I did a little box score watching. I saw RJ had 3 points. I saw Cam Hayes had 3 points. And it's just not ideal. It's disappointing. And was that RJ's worst game at ECU?
Since he became like a regular,
yeah.
Definitely his. I mean, the thing about it is Schwartz said it after the game. It wasn't even the shooting. It was like he couldn't hold on to the ball. It was like really Space Jam. It was like somebody took his talents because he couldn't hold on to the ball. He was dropping it out of bounds. It was just really weird to watch.
Odd. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't watch the game, so I can't give a crazy amount of input. But when you lose, how much did they lose? By 14?
They lost by 14.
Yeah, when you lose by 14, UNC Wilmington, it's disappointing. It's kind of like football. You lose to App State and Charlotte, those games that fans care about, those in-state games. And when you're ECU basketball and you have the limited opportunities that you have in the season, I know Memphis is not ranked, but we only played them once.
At Memphis.
And then you got South Carolina this Saturday, which is another road game. I mean, realistically, this might be their biggest home game of the year, and the one that fans care about the most. So when you lose it by 14 and you go on a 8-minute scoring drought, it's just disappointing overall. And you think to yourself, this same old ECU basketball.
Yeah, 8 minutes and 26 seconds without scoring with the game on the line, Philip. They got a layup in transition to C.J. Walker to make it 54-49, 9:23 to go. Place was buzzing. They did not score again. They did not score again until there was under a minute to play. I mean, I understand this is more of a defensive-oriented rebounding team, but you finally get a crowd, and I'm still disappointed by the crowd. I'll say that. I thought there'd be more juice in the building, but honestly, they had nothing to cheer about. And 7-2, but against one of the worst non-conference strength of schedules in the country. If you look at the analytics, this is a game you needed to play well in. Even if you lose close, like I think people can live with that, but just a bad night to have a bad performance, Philip.
Yeah, it was, and you mentioned the scoring drought there at the end, but there was one in the first half as well.
There's multiple.
Yeah, there was actually one in the first half where I think it was like 2 4-minute scoring droughts like butted up against each other. There was just a basket that like split it in half. So we mentioned the RJ thing. It was weird. He's actually in his last 3 games against Wilmington, I don't think he's put up double-digit points in any of those. Darren and I were talking about it during one of the later commercial breaks last night. We realized he was not going to finish with a lot of points. But, at the end of the day, you got to have somebody else step up. I feel like we didn't shoot the ball well. We didn't play with that physicality and that drive. The body language even looked different last night than I think it had in the previous 8 contests. And when you're a team who prides yourself on defense and on physicality and on your ability to play good transition defense, solid transition offense, you can't have a game where you go out there and just kind of look like you're just happy to be there. Like it doesn't really matter. And that was frustrating. And, look, we still got this weird rotation going on where we're playing 11 guys. We have no idea who our true number 5 is.
Still no big man.
Yeah, still no true big man. I mean, Reed Kaysen played a little bit. Sear Malonga played a little bit. Callum got in at the end of the game. But we still need someone to step up who's 6'10" or high or taller to step up and be that guy. Because at the end of the day, look, C.J. Walker can play down on the low block. He's solid at it. But at the end of the day, his athleticism was going to keep him in there. But he's still 6'8".
Yeah, and he had 1 rebound last night in 34 minutes, which I think speaks to you faced a team with some actual size. This is going to be – look, I don't think ECU is a bad team, but they have obvious flaws, and those flaws are they don't have a true 5, and they don't have a guy – they don't have shooting. I mean, if you look at the Division I numbers against Division I opponents, 3-point shooting, they are shooting well under 30%, I believe. So this team is going to win some games because they're physical at the guard position. It's going to basically all be about matchups. If they face a team that's smaller, I think they're going to be able to bully them. But if you face a team like last night, UNCW, that has legit size, that can match up with some of those guys and provide issues in the paint, James, the flaws are, I think, going to cost ECU some games too.
Yeah, and when you think about March Madness, I mean, obviously the guard plays a big thing, but, I mean, the teams that get to March Madness can shoot the ball and they have size. And when you're ECU and you can't shoot the ball and you don't have a true 5, it's going to be hard to win those big games and, get to that ultimate goal, which is getting to March Madness.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. I think we talked about it, Philip, too, with Sear Malonga in the preseason. We want to see some development, and I think they're trying to give him a chance, but he looked overwhelmed last night. I think Reed Kaysen has some ability, but he's a freshman. So it's kind of frustrating to see UNCW get this 7-foot, 280-pound guy from the portal, and ECU struggle to get a legitimate big man. Despite having 3 big guys on the roster, just could not play with them. Kind of got bullied around. Johnny Robertson says RJ is amazing. UNCW is his kryptonite, speaking to Philip's point earlier. In 3 career games versus them, he has shot 22%. He has not made a three-pointer and has never scored more than 7 points.
Really?
That's pretty crazy. Brendan Shapiro says that basketball game last night was disgusting. I needed a drink afterwards just to wash the taste of that game out of my mouth. John Moody says, was RJ sick last night? And A says, shout out to all my ECU staffers working to make it all happen in the background. So shout out to those people. Yeah, it's just, look, what's going to happen now is ECU's going to go to South Carolina. They're going to play pretty well, and they're going to lose a heartbreaker.
They're going to lose by like 3.
Yeah, like I can just see it. They're going to play well, they're going to fight, and they're going to lose because it's hard to win basketball on the road.
Maybe be winning at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was the first time ECU's trailed at halftime, I think, all season. So
yeah, it was.
I think this is. I don't think this team is bad. The problem is they have flaws, and with the way the non-conference schedule is constructed, if you have some bad performances in games like these, you're going to be up against it as far as the net and all that. There's just not margin for error, James.
No, there's not. And like you said with that South Carolina game, I don't think there's zero chance they win that South Carolina game. I don't think South Carolina's like world beaters. They lost their first game to South Alabama or North Alabama, whoever it was. So, I mean, ECU definitely has a chance to go to South Carolina and get a win. But like you said, knowing ECU basketball, they put up a stinker against Wilmington, they'll probably lose a heartbreaker.
Looking at the numbers last night, South Carolina went to Boston College, won by 22. So they seem to be trending up.
Yeah, no, and they beat Virginia Tech before that.
So they're playing better, but I agree. They're not unbeatable. And ECU beat them a couple years ago. Should have beat them last year, honestly. All right, we will see what happens. Let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll talk more with James Giglio. We got signing day to discuss. We got some questions as well in the comments section. And we've got to get to the college football playoff, which I'll be honest, I didn't watch any of the college football playoff last night. I haven't even looked at the rankings yet, so I'm going to need y'all to break that down for me. All I know is that Alabama is getting a lot of
attention,
criticism. Yeah, so we'll touch on that and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Here there be pirates. Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and I go. How good is this on 94.3 The Game?
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here. James Giglio in studio, as is Philip Pilkington. He's producing. Quick update again on the signing day headquarters, hoistthecolors.net. ECU has officially signed 19 players to, again, letter of intent, not really a thing anymore, to documents, I guess is the way to go. Grant and aid, enrollment documents, scholarship papers, however you want to say it. The class was ranked 69th, nice, but has just been elevated to 68th. So we'll see where the ranking falls, which is a pretty good ranking for ECU. Historically covering this, usually in the 70s or 80s. Right now, sitting at 68. Highest ranked players, Darion Horsley, who we touched on earlier, former Mississippi State corner commit, and Eddie Love Jr. out of Niceville High School in Florida, is also tied for him with the highest rating in the class. Johnny Williams, the other big story, flipping from James Madison to ECU today, Havelock receiver. All right, we'll have a press conference later today with Blake Carroll. We'll see if there's any other news. Waiting to see if Yannick Smith's brother, Yasir Smith, might sign. I heard that was a possibility. All right, getting back to the basketball discussion, we also have a welfare check to do on both Brady and James. So Brady Thomas and James Giglio from Bobby Hard. We'll get to that. Brendan says, not sure why Coach Schwartz didn't recruit a true big. And Brady comments, Jan Farrell has been a disappointment. Was looking forward to him shoot the three ball. Yeah, he had 2 open threes last night. He was recruited to shoot the three. Neither were close. So I don't know if it's a confidence thing with him right now. But, yeah, the lack of a true big is just, here's the thing, guys. Schwartz wants to play 1 through 5. They want to be able to switch. So, essentially, for people that don't understand basketball or listen to what does that mean, when they run a pick at the top of the key, he wants the defender, no matter who it is, to follow the next guy and switch. Mm-hmm. And 1 through 5, you can do that with C.J. Walker on the floor, who's basically an undersized 5, but is athletic enough to guard a point guard, like we saw last night. But it becomes a problem when the team inserts a big, and you switch on the big when he's setting the screen, and all of a sudden you've got a small guy guarding a big. So, I don't know. They've got to kind of figure out the balance to that, but not having a big who can maybe do that or handle all the defensive responsibilities they're asking is a problem right now. So, we kind of touched on this last segment, James, but, you've got big guys on the roster. Mm-hmm. I guess you just keep playing them until it clicks for one of them.
Yeah, I saw Callum Richard got 3 minutes at the end of the game. He's tall. I talked to him before the season. He's 6'10", 6'11". I don't think he can shoot the rock that well, but
yeah, he's just a post big.
You might. I don't think it would hurt to give him some more runs, see what he can do. I think it's just all about opportunities, though. Like you said, see what clicks, what doesn't. And like Philip said, they're running 11 guys for some reason. I think they need to get down to 8 or 7 or 8. And,
yeah. UNCW played 8 guys last night.
Yeah, that's the ideal number, I think, is 8. But yeah, I think they just need to. Luckily for them, right now it's only December, so they have a lot of time, and conference play hasn't started, so they just got to see what clicks.
One of the interesting things though is Reed Kaysen. He's a freshman. You mentioned that in the opening segment, Igo, but also he was injured, so he didn't play the first 6 games. He hasn't gotten used to the pace of play because he hasn't been at practice as much as some of the other guys. So maybe he can be I know we talked about Callum and Sear a lot, and I'm not trying to disregard James's point because I've been calling for Callum and or Sear for a while now. But if clearly Coach Schwartz doesn't think they're cutting it, maybe Reed Kaysen can be that guy because, to whoever made the comment about why didn't we recruit a true big, maybe he's the last guy that was added to this roster as far as big guys go, and might actually been the last guy added in general to this roster. And so it'll be interesting to see as time goes on, now once he has more time to practice, if he can become that guy.
All right, college football playoff top 25 came out last night, and the latest rankings somewhat, I don't want to say concerning, but somewhat debated, I guess is the right way to say it. All right, so the top 25 as it is currently constructed is Oregon at number 1, Texas at number 2, Penn State 3, Notre Dame 4, Georgia 5, Ohio State 6. Did they really only fall to 6 after losing to Michigan? Tennessee 7, SMU 8, Indiana 9, Boise State 10, Alabama with 3 losses, 11 ahead of Miami at 12, which has 2 losses. Miami goes down 6 spots after losing to Syracuse. And Ole Miss 13, South Carolina 14, Arizona State 15. So, again, I don't know. We'll kind of get general thoughts here because y'all probably watched it more than I did. I was busy with the game and signing day and all that, the portal. So, James, your initial thoughts on the playoff rankings?
Yeah, I thought Alabama was ranked concerningly high, I guess controversially high. I think they should not have been ranked above Miami and even Arizona State. Arizona State, I think, should be a top 10 team. I think they're better than Boise State and Alabama. But Miami lost to Syracuse, and Syracuse is now ranked right now. So I don't understand how a Miami loss to a ranked team on the road by 1 score drops you 6 spots. But they're basically saying that's the same as Alabama losing to Oklahoma by 21, because that's how far Alabama dropped with 6 spots. So I think it's just some SEC bias going on. I don't think Alabama should be where they are. The only way I think they don't make the playoff at this point is if Clemson wins the ACC title, and then they'd put Clemson and SMU in.
So if SMU, let's run the scenario here. If SMU gets blown out in the SEC or the ACC championship, do they not get in?
Yeah, I don't think they would get in. If they got like blown out of the stadium, like Clemson beats
34 to 13, yeah.
Yeah, I think they would not get in.
What do you think, Philip?
Let me look. So they lost to BYU.
That is
ranked.
their lone loss.
Yeah.
Only loss.
Yeah. So the tough
I don't think
part
they have a
with
great
them,
win, though.
They don't have a great win. So I think their best win is Duke.
Yeah.
Right? Because Louisville ended up 8-4, Duke ended up 9-3. So yeah, your best win's Duke. It was on the road. You kind of stole one. You didn't really deserve to win that game. You turned the ball over 6 times. So that's the tough thing is like Bama does have the better wins. Obviously, their losses would be better because they would have lost to one college football playoff team and one team who was just on the cusp of making it. So, yeah, I think if they get slaughtered just right, SEC bye, especially over an ACC team that wasn't even a Power 5 last year, well, it shouldn't come into play, but it probably will. But I'm kind of with James. It looks like we kind of know the 12. It's just a matter of, if Clemson wins, they're in instead of Alabama. And then it looks like the winner of UNLV Boise is in, and then the winner of Arizona State Iowa State is in. And then like everybody else is pretty much there. It's not as much drama. Obviously, we knew it was going to be that way going to 12, but that's kind of what I'm looking at right now.
So the projection right now, again, if the season ended today, so basically if SMU wins the ACC and Arizona State wins the Pac-12, this would be basically how it looks. The first round would be Arizona State at Penn State. The winner of that would play Boise State in the quarterfinals. In the first round, you'd also have Tennessee going to Ohio State, and the winner of that would play Oregon in the quarterfinals. You would have Alabama going to Notre Dame. Winner of that would play SMU in the quarterfinals, and then you have Indiana going to Georgia. Winner of that playing Texas. As SMU and Boise would get first-round byes. So the other question, I guess, what happens if SMU loses and Arizona State or Iowa State win? I guess they would get the bye over Clemson, or does Clemson jump?
No, it would be the Big 12 would get that 3 seed, I think. And then if UNLV wins, that also shakes things up because UNLV would probably be 12.
Yeah.
And then the ACC would be 4, and the Big 12 would be 3.
So UNLV...
Or if Clemson wins.
Yeah, and UNLV played Boise good in the regular season. So, I mean, it's not impossible they could win that game.
No.
And they barely lost to, Syracuse, I think?
They lost to Syracuse and Boise. Those are the only 2
so,
losses.
I mean, UNLV is a quality team. They could easily win that game. So, we'll see.
And it's in their home stadium.
There you go. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty excited about these matchups other than the fact that they fall on my wife's birthday, December 21st. So, that's going to be a whole problem for me. But I think if these were the matchups today, gentlemen, I'm excited for what should be good football. And also, you've got games at Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame on December 21st. It's going to be extremely cold at all those places.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get some snow games.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame and Penn State might deliver some snow games.
Yeah. Are you excited about this, Philip?
I am. This is a weird year, right? Like, you got to think, even if it was down to 4 this year, it'd be kind of odd. There's been a lot more losses amongst the top teams, of course, now that you've got one less power conference. They're all kind of playing each other, so that's got a lot to do with it. But I'm excited. It's going to be fun to see home playoff games. Something you only get in baseball right now because basketball's obviously played at a neutral site, and football to this point has been played at a neutral site, I guess, unless the years that UCLA played in the Rose Bowl is about the only time a team got to host and play in a game, and then the one time I guess Duke got to host in the Rose Bowl in 1942. But other than that, it's always a neutral site game.
All right, there's your college football playoff update. We really need a 3-hour show today, but we'll get a break in. Time is flying. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show after this.
This holiday season, get the gift you really want at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Drive a new Corolla, just $229 a month, or a new Tacoma, only $329 a month during the holiday trade-up at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hey, on the mountain we've got a saying. Get off your...
Show off. Mountain Dew.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Unwrap a new Toyota for the holidays at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Get a new Camry, $269 a month, or a new RAV4, $329 a month. Trade up and save at Greenville Toyota.
Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and Igo.
Drink up for me, hearty yo-ho.
On 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in, Hoist the Colors. Final segment here. Only got about 3 minutes left. Wanted to first address this question. We got James Giglio in studio and Philip Pilkington behind the glass. All right. Welfare check. Bobby wants to know first on Brady Thomas. He got to witness the Kentucky Wildcats take the L last night in person. Only ACC win in the ACC Challenge, according to Bobby. So let us know how you're doing, Brady. Also, Bobby wants to know, speaking of welfare checks, how is James doing after this disastrous New York Jets season? He also wants to know what your reaction will be when Juan Soto rejects the Yankees to sign with the crosstown Mets or hated rival Red Sox.
Well, first I'll start with the Jets. I gave up on the Jets about a months ago.
Yes.
I gave up on the Jets a while ago. So, I mean, I watch the games, but they lose. That's just a better draft pick. I want Aaron Rodgers gone. Let's get a clean reset. And then speaking on the Yankees, I think Juan Soto will resign. I don't know where that reject thing came from. That's
so you
not
think
gonna
he's still going to be a Yankee?
I think he will be in a Yankees uniform in 2025, yes. Unbiased
opinion. Isn't he supposed to announce soon?
He said at the end of the week, I think, or end of next week. I think he'll be. I don't see I don't think him signing with the Mets. I don't know why.
So what will you do if he does sign with the Mets or Red Sox?
Yeah, as long as it's not the Red Sox. I don't really hate the Mets, but the Red Sox, he'll become probably my least favorite player behind Freddie Freeman.
Good old Freddie. Yeah, I can understand why you dislike him after the World Series. Philip, you're a Red Sox guy. Is there any buzz that he might actually sign in Boston, Juan Soto?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few things, Boston media trying to hype something up.
Just doesn't
not
feel
gonna
right.
happen.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, he's going to be a Yankee, or he's going to do the really weird thing and go to the Giants so that he can play against Shohei and all those guys and rekindle that rivalry. My betting odds would be the Yankees. Like I said, I'd probably go like Giants 2, maybe Mets 3, and then never rule out the Dodgers. Right? Everybody says they don't have enough money, but they've said that before. So who knows? Probably end up in L.A. and then they'll contend with the 60s UCLA Bruins for most consecutive titles, or the 60s Celtics for most. Whoever's got more in a row. I know the Celtics have 8. I don't know how many in a row the Bruins won, but yeah.
We'll see. Where the hot stove feels kind of cold right now. There's not a lot happening in Major League Baseball with the free agency. I don't know. Maybe we're just waiting for that to happen. Yeah, the Seattle Mariners, they don't sign anybody. They just trade for random
all their
people.
good players.
Yeah, they trade all their good players for what seem to be good players until they wear a Seattle uniform, and they get worse. James, this has been fun, man, and we'll get you back on, I think, pretty much weekly going forward is the plan, although I guess you're going home for the holidays. You got any exams coming up?
Yeah, I got exam actually later today at 6 p.m. and tomorrow and then next Monday. So those are my last 3, and then home for the holidays.
There you go.
Might go to ECU's bowl game. So
yeah, by the way, quick note on that. By the way, appreciate it. We'll officially sign off because we only got about 10 seconds left before we head out. But Military Bowl, starting to hear a lot of buzz on the Military Bowl, and not saying it's a done deal, but very real possibility the Pirates could end up there based upon where the dominoes fall. We could maybe even know before the weekend is up. Don't think State or Carolina want any part of playing ECU in the Military Bowl, so we'll see what happens there. But that's a possibility. Also, Myrtle Beach still a possibility if the Military Bowl opts to go for Army or someone else. Navy, it sounds like likely heading to the Fort Worth Bowl. But we'll continue to keep you updated there. Again, Thursday, we'll be here with you 12 noon. We'll talk to you then with the latest on ECU football and athletics.